All right. Welcome to another video. We're going to continue the character counter website creation series. If you're new to this series or you're new to this channel in general, what we've been doing is we've been creating the same kind of web app just with three different frameworks. The first one, we created this web app in Angular, and it's a basic web app where we just have a huge text field. You put in some strings and it tells you how many characters total is in that string. I've added some other pieces like routing. I'm trying to remember what else. But anyway, if you want to go check out that playlist, it's here on my playlists page. You can find it under the character counting site playlist. I don't know if all the videos are in there. Now that I see there's only 8, I'm going to make sure. But hopefully by the time you watch this, it's all up to date. And if you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing. You guys have been killing it with viewership and subscriptions lately. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot. I'm going to try to crank these out more consistently. I've been really busy at work with projects and found not as much time as I'd like to do this. But last night, I went ahead and I downloaded the latest version, Visual Studio. I have 2022 installed right now, which I recommend you doing if you're following along. It's free. You can download it right here. Just Google Visual Studio download. I was rocking Visual Studio 2019 and 2022 is the latest. And once you download from this free download, you can now go to the Visual Studio installer. And if we look here, I'll show you everything that I have so you can follow along just as I am. I have ASP.NET and web development checked because that's what we're going to use. We're going to use ASP.NET Core MVC for this portion. And then in the next portion, we're going to create the same web app in Flask. And I also have these other things checked. I think those were just checked by default. And I don't think this is going to be a full tutorial on ASP.NET Core. It's not intended to be. I'm going to try to talk about some more general things that you may need to know and some basics, but I'm sure there'll be some supplemental material you'll need. So you might have to check out other tutorials too. We're going to create this web app based on assumption that you know a little bit of C# and HTML, JavaScript, all that stuff. And if you don't, maybe you can still be able to follow along. We'll find out. So I'm going to open Visual Studio 2022. This video in particular, we're just going to set up our project. We're going to talk about some basics of MVC, Model View Controller, and ASP.NET Core. I'm going to skip this for now. I probably should sign in at some point. We're going to make this dark. And here we can go ahead and either open an existing project, but we're going to create a new project. So on the right, I will click on create a new project. So here we have all of the different project templates at the top. I'm just going to search for ASP.NET Core. And the one down here is the one we want. ASP.NET Core Web App Model View Controller. That's the framework we're going to use. And this is the template that we want. So I'll click on it, hit next. We'll give it some kind of project name. So character counter. Man, we're back to me not being able to type. Put it wherever you want. This is fine for me by default. I'll hit next. So here we can choose what framework we're using. I'll use .NET Core 6.0. That's fine. Hit create. And here we go. We have our project. I'm going to exit out of these things. And let's just go ahead and right off the rip, start our project and look at the web app. We have this self-signed certificate from this web app. We'll say, yeah, we trust this. That's fine. And yes. And here we go. Here is our basic web app from the template. We have a home page, which is just this URL. This is our default page. We'll take a look at how this is default. How do we know this is default here in a second? And we also have a privacy page, and here's the path to that. It's just home/privacy. And right here in the URL, it's pretty important. We have our /home, which you can think of as a controller, and then our privacy, which is the action of that controller. And that might not make sense to you right away, but let's keep this up and then let's go look at some of the files in this project. So I'll go to the Solution Explorer. And then here you can see we have a couple of folders. We have controllers, we have models, we have views. We're probably not going to worry about models in this particular series because we're not going to have a database and we're not going to have some classes with different data models in this particular video. That might be a future video. But the two we really care about is controllers. So if we expand that, we have a home controller. And you can think of a controller as just a class that you give it some kind of action like, hey, I want to look at this particular thing. It's going to serve up that particular thing for you. Maybe a controller is just purely API and say, hey, I want this kind of data with these parameters, and it'll return that data to you. And so something to take note of is the naming convention here. We have home, which is the name of this controller, and then we always end it with the word controller, so home controller. And there are two methods in here that I particularly want to look at. We have index and then we have privacy, and they both return an iAction result. And the names of these methods are important because these are what we consider actions. This is the index action, this is the privacy action. And notice all it does in this method is it just returns view. And here you can say, okay, that's going to return the index view in this particular method. This one is going to return the privacy view, meaning if we go back to our app and I hit privacy, this right here, what we're seeing, this H2 or whatever it is, maybe it's an H1, this paragraph, is the privacy view. And how do we know that? Well, if we go back, we go to our Solution Explorer, we expand views, we expand home folder. This is usually the structure. So we have this new folder or directory called home, and that's going to correlate to the home controller in the views folder. And then we have a couple CS HTML files. These are known as razor pages, which we'll probably talk about more in depth in the future. But notice there's an index and there's a privacy. And maybe by now something's starting to click, right? And let me pin this so it just stays here. I don't care about the diagnostics right now. But if I click the privacy.cs HTML, we take a look, we see the same thing that we see in the web app. We have an H1. In our case, the H1 is going to reference some code. That's what makes CS HTML powerful. It references some code. It says, hey, show the title property of this view data. And we set the title property of this view data to privacy policy. So really what it's doing is it's just putting privacy policy right here in this H1. And then we also have a paragraph down here. And that's exactly what we see in the web app. And so if we back to the controller, let's look at this again. So we have privacy action in the home controller, and we tell it return the view of privacy. So what's going to do, it's going to look for a views folder. It says, yep, okay, I'm in the views folder. I'm going to look for the home folder inside of that because this is the home controller. And then we're going to look for privacy.cs HTML. And then it's going to display this page. And so I'm going to stop the app and I'm going to add another H2 down here saying testing the updated page in our privacy.cs HTML. And when we make a change like this in the CS HTML, this gets created on compilation. So it's not going to be changed if we had this same app running. We went ahead and changed this. It has to recompile after the CS HTML is changed or updated. So now if we go ahead and run this again, it'll recompile. We'll look at the new privacy page. And here we see that new H2 that I added, the testing the updated page. Okay, so I know this was probably a pretty packed video if you're new to ASP.NET Core MVC. We're going to go over some more stuff in the next video. More importantly, when we go to home, notice there's no, /home for the home controller /action. It's blank, but yet it still shows us the home view. How does it know to do that? We'll talk about that in the next video, probably some other stuff, but I just wanted to get us started in this video, and then once we go through some of the basics, we'll go ahead and create our character counter app. So thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video, and hopefully you enjoy this series.